Good morning. You're welcome to our today's lecture. We are still on the course Basic Dispensing Theory 1, Ability 152. And we are still on the topic Suppositories and Pessaries, part 3. This is our third contact on this topic. In our last lecture, we discussed the factors affecting the drug absorption from rectal suppositories, and we listed three main factors: physiological factors, physiological factors, physicochemical characteristics of the drugs, and the physicochemical characteristics of the the base and adjuvants. And we discussed in detail each of these factors. And today we move over to specifications of suppository bases. You know, these bases, they come from different sources. They are also of different types in terms of their properties. So there is need to specify, the certain features of the particular base, so that you know how the base can combine with other ingredients, and the temperature at which it should be exposed to, and other factors before using that particular base. Because if you don't know these things about the particular base, you may mistakenly use it. For example, there are some bases that we melt at a particular temperature range. If you're not aware of this specific feature of this particular base, you may make a mistake to expose it to a temperature that may not give you what you are looking for. So these things are very important. These specifications are very important. And there are 9 specifications we are going to look at. The first one is the origin and the chemical composition. The origin and the chemical composition of the bases. We also look at the melting range. You look at solid fat index or SFI. Solid fat index or SFI. That is the abbreviation. Then solidification points. We look at hydroxy value, we look at saponification value, iodine value, water number, and acid value. So these are the specifications we're going to look at. It will guide us to know how to use a particular base. Now, let's go over to the origin and chemical composition. The origin and chemical composition. By origin, we mean the source. Remember in our last class, when we discussed drugs, we discussed drugs being part of a formulation. I made mention of the sources of drugs, like drugs that are natural, drugs that are synthetic, and drugs that are semi-synthetic. It's not only about the drug itself, even the excipients. Some excipients are natural, some excipients are synthetic, while some are semi-synthetic. Now, the same way now, bases, suppository bases, some of them are what? Natural. All together. Some of them are what? Natural. Some are synthetic. While some are what? Semi-synthetic. You can call them semi-synthetic or modified natural products. Please know that one. You can call them what? Semi-what? Synthetic or what? You know what happened, right? Modified natural what? Products. So they can be natural, they can be semi-synthetic, they can be semi-synthetic or modified natural, and they can be what? Purely what? Synthetic, depending. So the suppository bases are not left out. Some of them are natural, some of them are what? Synthetic, while some are modified natural product or what? Semi-synthetic. Now, there are features you may find, you may see in bases that are natural. You may not see in the one that are what? Semi-synthetic or synthetic. So it's important to specify the source of the what? The product. Are we together? It's important to specify the source of the what? The what? Base. It will help you to know how to handle the what? The base. By the time we go into suppository bases full time to discuss it, you see those ones that are what? Natural. Those ones that are what? Synthetic. And those ones that are what? Semi-synthetic. Now, another point there is that we also look at in this first specification is also the what? The chemical what? Composition. If you know the chemical composition of the what? Of the what? Base, it will help you to determine possible chemical incompatibilities. That is how it will interact with other what? Excipients. Am I completing? If you know the chemical composition of the suppository base, it will help you to know from the source. Of course, when you talk of chemical composition, you go deep into the formula. True of us, chemical formula, what and what make up this basis, the formula and everything. The nature of that, the chemical composition will help you to know, can it react with this type of preservative? Can it react with water? Can it react with this type of, with these antioxidants and this other excipient or adjuvant? So if you know the chemical composition, it will help you to know what and what you should not use it to do what? To do what? Formulate. Because ideally, suppository base should not be what? Reactive. You shouldn't react to the what? Any of the what? Adjuvants. But if you don't know the chemical composition, you wouldn't even know what you can react to. True of us. So that's why it's important to specify. Specify the origin, where it came from, the source, at the same time the chemical what? Composition. So that's the importance of this what? Specification. Now, let's go to the next one. The melting range. Melting range. Unlike other substances, fat does not just melt at a particular what? Point. It starts melting at a point. You are right. You're not wrong. It starts melting at a particular what? Temperature and finish melting at under what? Temperature. That's why you hear something like melting range for fat instead of melting points. Am I completing? It will start and melting and end the melting at a particular what? Temperature. So suppository bases, they don't have sharp what? Melting points. Their melting characteristics are what? Expressed as ranges. What it means is that at temperature the fat start melting, then complete the melting at under what? Temperature. So you now understand what we mean by what? Melting range. So you can if you have a particular base, suppository base, having looked at it, having specified the source and specify the chemical composition, you need to also check the temperature at which temperature range at which it melts. If you check that range, it will help you to know whether would that base be able to release melt at body temperature. to release the what? The drug. If the melting rate is far above the boiling temperature, if the melting rate is around that 50 something to let's assume 50 something to 60 degrees Celsius, then that time you should put it in the body temperature is what? 37 degrees. You will instart it to remain there.
Yes.
Will the drug leave?
No.
Then if the melting rate is far below the body temperature, maybe around, you specify it and see that the melting rate is around, maybe, for example now, okay, let's say 15 to 20 or even less than that, 10. What it means that it won't even get to the system, it will melt. True of us. So these are things you specify when handling what? When looking at what? Suppository what? Base. So this melting this range can be determined using Willy melting point, or capillary melting point, or incipient melting, or thaw point, or softening what? Point. These are, this is a different, if you start going deep into that, it's beyond your listening. Okay? Just to mention it that such thing exists. But if you have interest in it, you can go and, if you have the time, go and study. Okay, you take it. Wow, you lecture us on that. Alright, let's continue. So next one is the solid fat what? Index. Solid fat what? Index. SFI. This solid fat index actually this helps us to know the what? The solidification, the different in what? The solidification point and the what? The melting what? Range of the what? Fatty what? Basis. And basically it says more about the hardness of the what? The base. Am I communicating? This solid fat index talks more, leads us more into how hard it will be. Am I communicating? It shows more, it throws more light on the hardness of the what? The basis. Of course, when you talk of the hardness of the basis, now it will reflect to how hard it will be after what? Formulation and molding. Am I communicating? That's what this solid fat index, what this solid fat index just want us to what? Know. So now, and ideally, the solid fat index has a curve. Solid fat index has a what? Curve of a suppository. Basically, the solid fat index curve of a good suppository base should be what? Sharp. Should be what? Sharp. Very, very what? Sharp. What it means is this, that the interval between the melting range or point and the solidification point should be what? Small. Okay? Should be what? Small. It should not, if it's too hard, it's a problem, right?
Yes.
So the solid fat index actually throw more light on hardness. But if it is too hard, there will be a problem. So the interval between the what? When we say interval, we are not talking about the time now. We mean temperature. Okay? Temperature difference between the what? The melting point, the melting range or point and the solidification point should be what? Very, very what? Small. Are we together? Now, that's basically what solid fat index is trying to let us what? Know. Now, what of solidification point? Solidification point, this one helps us this talks about the what? The time required for the what? The base to do what? Solidify. And if you are compounding suppository, you melt everything, mix everything, and pour it in the mold. Allow it to do what? Cool and solidify. Okay? Now this one talks about what? The time required for this to do what? The base to do what? Solidify and chill in the what? The mold. Okay. Now, another point I want to make here is that is that, you know, what do you think if you pour the molten form of the mixture inside the mold, and it takes time to solidify. The time is more time to what? Solidify. What do you think will be the implication on that suppository?
It will take time to dissolve.
You prepare for this, right? I like that. So it's not the time shouldn't be that what? Long. Okay? Okay? Good. Of course, of course, hope you know that when you say the time is not that, I mean the temperature will be dropping. Hope you know. Okay, good. Now, so if the interval between the melting point and solidification point is 10 degrees Celsius or more, time required for solidification should what? Shorten for efficient what? Manufacturing procedure by what? Refrigeration. So, or if the difference is too long, you need to what? Shorten the what? The time for what? Qualification. Now, another point I want to make here is what? The hydroxy what? Value. This one is where you start having reactions. Neutralization reaction will start taking place here. What is hydroxy value of a suppository base? Is number of milligrams of what? Potassium hydroxide that would neutralize acetic what? Acid used to do what? Acetylate 1 gram of what? Fat. You know, first of all, if you want to determine this, you get a particular amount of acetic acid. Know the amount of acetic acid you will use to acetylate 1 gram of fat. Once you acetylate the 1 gram of fat now, with that acetic acid, you now carry out a neutralization reaction with what? Potassium what? Hydroxide. So the amount of potassium hydroxide that's required to neutralize that a specific amount of acetic acid used to acetylate 1 gram of what? The fat gives you the what? The hydroxy value of this. What is the implication of this hydroxy value? Hydroxy value of this helps you to know exactly the content of fatty base in terms of what? Whether it is what? Mono what? Glyceride or what? Di what? Glyceride. So it will help you it reflects the mono and diglyceride content of the what? Fats. That's the implication of what? Hydroxyl value. Am I communicating? Then, what of the saponification value? What of the what? Saponification value. What does it tell us? And what does it mean? Of course, in your organic chemistry, now you do saponification, right? In your organic chemistry too. In your new chemistry, there, right? Is that where you have your saponification? No, I mean O level now. I'm not on O level. Organic chemistry, that's that's where you have saponification. So what is saponification value? What is what? Saponification value. Of course, basically when alkali like KOH neutralize fatty acid is termed what? Saponification, basically. Now, but for suppository base, saponification value, please the amount of potassium hydroxide I talk about in hydroxide value should be in what? Milligram. Okay? Not just any unit, it should be in what? Milligram. Now, saponification value is the number of milligrams of potassium hydroxide required to neutralize free fatty acids and saponify the ester contained in 1 gram of what? Fat. So if you get 1 gram of fat, then you react with what? Potassium hydroxide. You know, of course, through this reaction, through stoichiometry of reaction, you can get that through of us. you can get the amount of what? Milligram of what? Potassium hydroxide that will neutralize 1 gram of what? Fat. That one is simple to determine. So the amount of potassium required to is the amount a milligram of potassium hydroxide required to neutralize the free fatty acid and saponify the ester contained in what? 1 gram of what? Of the fat. So what do you find out using saponification value? You determine the type of, listen carefully, the type and the amount. The type and the amount. So you quantitatively and qualitatively, you qualitatively type and quantitatively amount determine the glyceride present in the what? In the fat. Whether it is monoglyceride, diglyceride, or triglyceride. So you are determining both the what? Quantitatively and the what? Qualitatively. Presence, content, and the amount. So that's what you use saponification value to determine. Then from the basically saponification value for a good or ideal suppository base ranges from 200 to what? 245, 200 to what? 200 and what? 45. Okay? Remember, is the amount of potassium hydroxide in what? Milligram. Remember. So for an ideal suppository base, it ranges from where? 200 to what? 245. For an ideal, yes. For an ideal what? Suppository what? Base. Now, what of iodine value? What of iodine value? What of iodine value? Iodine value is number of grams of iodine. Iodine value is number of grams of iodine that react with 100 grams of what? Fats or other what? Unsaturated materials. Is the amount of iodine in grams. Note that point. Note this unit. Is the amount of iodine in grams that react with what? 100 grams of fats or other what? Unsaturated what? Material. Are we together? So, if the iodine value of a particular suppository base is very, very high, there's a problem. The problem that will occur is what we call what? There's high possibility of what we call what? Rancidity. Rancidity. Did anyone look up the meaning of rancidity?
Spoilage of fat.
Good, spoilage of fat. When exposed to what? Oxygen, moisture, and other factors. Am I communicating? So they start having unpleasant odor and taste. How will it look like if you get a suppository that, like that one we opened in our last lecture, you start perceiving unpleasant odor? Will you use it?
No.
You will not use it. So that's what is called rancidity. Rancidity. So if a suppository base has a very high iodine value, it can lead to what? Rancidity. Rancidity. So ideally, a suppository base should have iodine value less than 7. Ideally. So if it's more than 7, there's a tendency of that iodine of that base, if you use it for suppository, to start to go rancid. Okay? There's high tendency for it to go what? Rancid. If you use such base. Rancidity. If you use such base, there's high tendency for it to go what? Rancid. Yeah, good morning. So the next one I want us to look at is water number. Water number. Water number. Water number. How many have we discussed now? I saw them. One is what? Origin and what? Original what? Chemical composition. Next one is what?
Melting range.
Melting range. Followed by what?
Solid fat index.
Solid
Fat index.
fat index, SFI.
Solidification.
What?
Solidification.
Solidification point. Next one.
Hydroxyl value.
Hydroxyl
Value.
value. Next one.
Saponification value.
Saponification value. Next one.
Iodine value.
Iodine value. Next one.
Water.
8 is what?
Water number.
Water number. So we are here at water number. So what is water number? Water number is the amount of water in gram that can be incorporated in 100 gram of what? Fat. The amount of water in gram that can be incorporated in 100 gram of what? Fat. You can increase the water number of a suppository base by adding surfactants, surface active what? Agents. You can increase the water number of a suppository base by adding what? Incorporating what? Surface active what? Agent or surfactants. Now, what is the implication of this water number? If you have a suppository base, if you specify a suppository base, if you study a suppository base you want to use, and you realize that that suppository base has a very high water number, what it implies is that it can accommodate large amount of water without going what? Rancid. Okay? That's the implication. And ideally, are we together?
Yes.
Ideally, an ideal suppository base should have a high water number. Okay? It should be able to accommodate high percentage of what? Water. That's it. So that means you should be able to incorporate high percentage of water in that what? Suppository. So if you see a suppository base that can accommodate high percentage of water, it's a good one. It's a good one. True of us. Because there are a lot of things you have to you use water. Okay, now what if you cannot accommodate a high percentage of water, and after mixing the other ingredient and put it inside the word base, that base may start going rancid easily. Two of us, you may have issues easily when you come in contact with what? Moisture. But if you can accommodate it without having issues, it's a wonderful thing. So that's why I say that a good suppository base should have a high what? Water number. Should have what? High water number. High water number. Wow. I colonized everything the answer before it died. Well, let's go front of you, okay? Alright. Okay, so now are we together? So let me round up so that now the next one we'll look at is what? Acid value. Acid value. Acid value. So what is acid value? Acid value is number or the amount of potassium hydroxide in milligrams. Acid value is the amount of potassium hydroxide in what? Milligrams. That is required to neutralize the free fatty acid in 1 gram of fat or any substance. Are we together? The acid value of any substance, fat inclusive, is the amount of potassium hydroxide in milligram required to neutralize the what? Free fatty acid in 1 gram of fat. Leave that substance. Because when you talk about free fatty acid, we are talking about what? Fat now. Are we together? Free fatty acid. Now, what is the implication of this? Implication of this acid value? Low acid value or absence of acid at all, acid value at all, is very important for good what? Suppository base. So what it means is that the acid value of a suppository base should be kept as low as possible. Ideally, for ideal suppository base, the acid value should be below 0.2. For an ideal suppository base, the acid value should be below 0.2. In fact, if it's possible to say that the suppository base has no acid value, wonderful. Am I committed? Because the more acid value, the more issues it will have. Am I committed? So, rancidity is a very serious issue when it comes to what? Fatty what? Bases. It's a very serious issue. You should avoid entirely. Alright. So, while discussing this, did you notice something? Now, while discussing these specifications of suppository bases, I almost exhausted everything that has to do with what properties of what ideal bases. Did you notice that? So this would take us to properties of what? Ideal what? Suppository what? Base. An ideal what? Suppository what? Base. I would have loved to continue, but for me to allow your Mr. Lecturer to come in, let me give him time. So we'll continue next time. In our next class, we go over to what? Properties of an ideal suppository. Please, I want you to, today that you study ahead, did you enjoy the lecture? Did you enjoy the lecture? It's very important to do what? Study ahead. I tell you what to do next so that you study ahead. It will help you to, it will help you to retain, understand, have a deeper insight, have an insight of what you're talking about. You will not be floating. You will not be distracted because you have gone through it. If you are listening to me speaking, or even not me, even any lecturer speaking, you will be able to, you try to link what the lecturer is saying with what you read or researched, and it will enter well. You will not be distracted. Your pen will be in your hand because there you want to add more points to what you have already read. But if you don't do anything, just come to class and looking at you. Next time you start sleeping or you start discussing because empty drums make the what? Loudest what? No, because you start chatting because you are not following. So please go through these properties of what? An ideal what? Suppository what? Basis. So after that now, go into types of bases because we are now entering into the ingredient now. We are entering into the what? The basis and the what? Other what? Adjuvant. That's what we are entering now. So make sure that you do that. In fact, in summary, we are entering into formulation of what? Suppositories. We are starting with the basis. Under the formulation of suppositories, we look at these things. Let me make it clear so that you know what we are talking about. We are going to what? Formulation of what? Basically, that's what we are going into now. Of what? Suppositories. So under this now, we look at what? The ingredient now. We look at the base. From there, we start looking at other what? Adjuvant. The first one is what? Anti what? We look at anti what? Followed by what?
Emulsifying agents.
Emulsifying what? Followed by what? Hardening what? And so on and so forth. Complete the one after the other. But the first one we'll go into is what? Basis. And to discuss base, we'll start with what? Properties of what? Ideal what? Base. And ideal what? Suppository base. When we are done with that, we go over to what? Types of what? Suppository bases. Start seeing different classes. The one that is what? Hydrophilic. The one that is what? Hydrophobic. And the one that is what? Dispersible. We now move into the one that is synthetic of what? When mentioning them when we talk about those that are what? Natural, synthetic, and semi-what? Synthetic. Alright, do you have any question? Ask.
Under acid value, we say acid value is used for required for neutralizing the free fatty acid in 1 gram of fat. The same thing can be kept under saponification value. Saponification value also neutralizes the free acid. Under this acid value, it means that the absence doesn't even matter at all. But under saponification value, it also does the same function, just that saponification value has an additional use to it. Saponification value as well neutralizes the free fatty acid in 1 kilogram of the same fat. So does it mean that
You stop somewhere. Complete it. Complete that saponification value. There's something you're missing. The ester part.
what I'm saying, it has two functions. It's also saponify the ester. And it has two
What
functions.
is saponification?
I can't even remember. It's all about soap, production of
What is
soap.
saponification? Different saponification chemically. What is saponification? This is your organic chemistry, so you should be able to tell me that. This is your secondary school organic chemistry. I won't tell you that. What is saponification? Let's start from there first. I know it's soap, but what happened in that soap? Not soap, give me soap. What chemically tell me what saponification is? That what I want to hear? Say soap. Reaction between what and what? Is fatty acid? Is fatty acid?
Yes.
Who say yes? How? Ask me, you have fatty acid. Ask me, is fatty acid? I say yes. Yeah, how? Ask me, you have fatty acid. Is fatty acid? Is fat actually fatty acid? Or a product of fatty acid? Check what is fat. Now, what is saponification? Who has looked it up? Tell us what's saponification. Listen carefully. It's what?
Process of making soup from fats or oil.
How? Did they have what? I want to go into the reaction between what and what.
It involves the reaction of the fat or oil with a strong base.
Fat and a strong base. Also, fatty acid. Is what is then fat? Is fat a fatty acid or an ester? What is fat? Is what? Is it an ester? Are you sure? Are you sure? Is it an ester? Are you sure? Good. Now, what ended it? That question. 1 gram of what?
Fat.
So, it's not the same thing with acid value.
Ground substance in bracket fat under the acid value.
It's not the same thing with acid value. Acid value specifically pinpoint the what? Fatty acid in 1 gram of the what? Fat. Am I communicating? Am I communicating? Acid value is not the same thing with saponification. That's what I want to point out. For saponification value, the reaction is actually the reaction must be complete. It talks about the what? The ester itself, the fat, and the what? And the what? And the what? Strong what? Base, which is that's why I that a strong base.
Yes.
It's a strong base now. Are we together? Good. So if you are talking about the reaction between the potassium hydroxide and the 1 gram of the fat itself, you talk about what? You talk about what? Saponification value. But for acid value, between the what? What is it called? The KOH and free fatty acid present in 1 gram of what? I don't know if you are clear now. I'm asking you to get quiet. You are not clear. How? How are you not clear?
Okay, so that acid value is between.
Can you keep that phone?
Is between.
Can you keep that phone and talk to me? You are talking to me, you are pressing phone, telling me between.
It's
Can
from
you keep it and talk to me? Talk to me. What is your confusion? Close that phone now. Let's talk. What, no, seriously, it's wrong now. You are confused. And I'm here standing before you. You are holding phone. What are you reading? I want to know your issue, not reading from notes. Tell me your issue. Let me clarify you.
The thing is that under supplementation and that acid value, already you said that this acid value between action of the strong base KOH and the fatty acid, and then under supplementation between the fat and the oil.
That would fat and oil.
The fat and the strong base.
Good. What I said now.
But the only thing is that in this PDF, at the beginning, the division and that of acid value at the beginning, apart from.
I think your issue is a what? Grammar. It's a grammatical issue, okay? Can someone read that thing for us? Read it for us. No, it's her issue is what? Grammatical. Oh, yeah, read it. Let's reason it, the statements. Read that place. Read substitution value fast. Your lecturer is waiting.
The number of milligrams of potassium hydroxide required to neutralize the free fatty acid and saponify the ester contained in 1 gram of it.
And saponify the ester. That's the substitution value now. Are we together? Remember that in fact, when you talk about fat, yes, it's an ester. Tendency of free fatty acid present is there too. So when there's free fatty acid present and KOH is reacting with it, will it leave the fatty acid and go? It will do what? Neutralize any free fatty acid first. Then saponify the fat. Your issue is grammar. It's grammar. But look at acid value. What did he say? It was specific on what? Free fatty acid. He didn't mention saponifying fat. So why would you tell me that the acid value and saponifying are the same thing? Have you not seen the moment you drop that thing, that thing will confusing you, it became clear. So it's just grammar, okay? It's just grammar. Alright, so I think we'll stop. Any other question? I think we'll stop here so that your lecturer can come in. In our next class, we'll continue with what? Properties of an ideal works geometry base. Alright, thank you very much for your attention. See you next time.